Welcome back to the Meeple Marathon and another massive unboxing. This time we are going to be taking a look at Middara, Unintentional Malum Act I. Before we go any further, I do want to admit that I have succumbed to the pressure, no pun intended. I have succumbed to the pressure of Succubus Publishing and all those who have played this game before me and stated how amazing it is. Middara is a narrative-driven adventure game. Has a lot of dungeon crawler aspects to it, but it has this JRPG feel to it, which I'm not really into JRPGs. But it supposedly has a really great character creation, endless possibilities, an amazing story, a ridiculously super thick narrative story that you're going to follow through. But this is one that went to Kickstarter and actually has been through 2 Kickstarters, and I passed on both of them because this game just seemed to be too much. But after every review I've seen and everybody being in love with this game, I decided I needed to give it a chance. So let's go ahead and see what's in this giant box. Just in case any of you are curious, this is essentially the heavyweight contender to Gloomhaven, that's for sure. I looked it up. According to Amazon, Gloomhaven weighs in at 21.6 pounds. This one, according to Succubus Publishing, comes in at 22 pounds, so I guess is just slightly heavier than Gloomhaven. Gloomhaven does stand taller, but this one has a much larger footprint. The box is actually bigger. This one feels like, one of those large coffin-size boxes that like Monopoly would come in, but literally 3 times as thick as Monopoly and about 5 times heavier than Monopoly. So we're not even going to attempt to flip this thing over. We're just going to go ahead and take a look at it. If I can even get the box lid up off of it without shaking the table. So here we go. Alrighty. So obviously there's a fair amount of miniatures in this game, quite detailed miniatures, and there actually is even going to be some standees here that we'll see in a little bit, because they don't have every single monster and minion represented by a miniature. Similar to how Gloomhaven, you couldn't possibly have a miniature for every single one. Here they went further than Gloomhaven. More than just the heroes are represented here, but it's really just the major monsters, the ones you're going to see a lot. So we're going to lift these out here, and we're going to take a closer look at all of these here in a little bit when we can zoom in. But this is essentially what we're greeted with here. I don't even know how to lift all of this out. Alright, so let's just set these off to the side up here. This one's got to be much thicker. I mean, some of these are just amazing looking. Here's the gentleman from the cover. I don't know if that's Middara himself. Okay. So, we've got this cover here and an insert. I'm just going to call it an insert. We've got some bags of stuff. But one of the reasons why I became more interested in this is because this is just a giant empty box with tons of components. So my first challenge before I even attempt to get into the game while I'm learning the game will be to organize this sucker. So let's see what else we have here. So another lid to keep some of the stuff in, which is nice because that gives you a nice area to store all of your map tiles over here. But let's just take a look at what we've got here. Alright, so piece of paper on top to protect your rule book, which is you know, not necessary, but a really nice touch, I guess, just because this was on top. It's bent a little bit up here, but that's not the end of the world. So this is the rule book, and this is, again, not for the faint of heart. This game is intense. It's got a ton of components. Here you can see summary of components, and then a component list. Alright, so literally the first 8 pages was all component lists. Choosing a game mode, adventure mode versus crawl mode. Crawl mode is kind of like the one-off scenarios. You don't want to get a whole big group committed to a 6-week campaign. Then you're going to do crawl mode. Adventure mode, though, is what we're all here for. So here we're just talking about how to choose. Here we start talking about setting up your encounter, reading your encounters, using the hidden text feature that are in all of them, tiles and terrain. I'm not going to go through this whole book because it is nearly 71, hold on, 72 pages if you get here just to the variants. And then there's an index. I believe this is like a giant cheat sheet. And then a decent graphic on the back, which is a dice breakdown of each of the dice and their faces. Now you can see there's more than just numbers on these. There's all these symbols, which obviously we'll get into when we start breaking down how to play the game. But you can see obviously this chart is from worst to best here. The gray, the worst you can do is a 4. You can roll as high as a 10 with a gray. Purples are somewhere in the middle. So this is a nice little touch. And from listening to the designer, Brooklyn, they put a lot of thought into this. So it is massive, and the rules for the game are intense, but they put a lot of thought and care into the game. So here we have the diagram book, crawl book, bounty book, and then a giant spiral bound book underneath. So the diagram book is simply going to show you how to set up certain features. And now these may be larger areas like this, larger maps like this, or it may be just one single tile. And what's nice about this is that what I'm showing you is not necessarily going to be the very first scenario in the game. That right there may be scenario 35. This book has been randomized so that when you come across in your adventure book and it says go to diagram whatever, it's going to tell you diagram 38 may be the first one, or there may be add this room, go to diagram 37. I mean, there's what, 48, 50, 50 different diagrams in there. So this is a nice touch because I think a lot of the main setup is in the adventure book, but then they have this additional diagram book so that you don't necessarily always see what's coming around the corner, which is something Gloomhaven figured out and is attempting to do in Frosthaven. Also, I think they did a little bit in Jaws of the Lion. So here's the crawl book. This again is meant to just be kind of one-off scenarios. So you can see everything basically is right here on 2 pages, and there's some loot you can get, but this is meant to be like you and your buddies just want to test it out. Nobody wants to get involved in a huge campaign. You come to the crawl book. Then there's the bounty book. I am not 100% sure what's up with the bounty book. I believe this is essentially like a side quest. That at some point during your adventure you're told to go after the Blighted Terror, and that's all in that book right there. All right. Got a lot of baggies, and I know that their intentions were good in including these. These are meant to be for your individual characters, so you're going to put their character card, any equipment they have in it, throw it in there and save it in between. But for those of you familiar with the channel, it's my goal to get rid of as many baggies as possible. So here are the dice, and as you can see, we already saw the breakdown of these dice. So a good number of unique dice. Actually, they're all unique, but not an overwhelming amount of dice. There you go. We'll put those off to the side. And now, see, this is the problem here. There's just this huge mess of cards, and somewhere down underneath there is a whole bunch of cardboard, which is going to result in more tokens than we possibly know what to do with. These are going to be all of the player boards, but also all of the monster companion boards, everything like that. All the monsters have AI functions here that you're going to follow through. There is some hidden cards here, so you can compare and see, okay, that's about the right size. So I'm guessing these are additional monsters you're going to unlock, possibly even some playable characters. There's that. Here are some Terratized cards. There's this mini game called Abraxas, which is this battle dice game that you can play amongst your adventure mode campaign. That's about all I know about the Abraxas battle dice cards. Mainly, these are going to be our individual reference sheets here. And here we have, just pulling these out somewhat randomly, here are some more hidden cards here. Let's see, I thought there should be one more deck. Maybe it's in these. Yeah, there you go. And some small hidden cards. So you can see that there is some secrets, some surprises that obviously we are not going to look at today. Oh my gosh. All right. This right here has got to be like 8 pounds. I'm not kidding. Look at the size of that. Ridiculous. This is like a college textbook or something like that. 482 pages. So this right here, this is what makes Middara so exciting. That it is beyond an adventure that, and this is just Act 1, ladies and gentlemen. Their intentions, I believe, is to have Act 2, which they have created. That was the most recent Kickstarter. But I don't know if that's been quite delivered to people yet. But I believe their intentions are to have an Act 3 and then create a whole nother storyline. So here we have some adventure sheets, a small tablet, which is probably more than you will ever need. Some flags, which essentially are probably keywords, achievements, unlocked items, and equipment. And here you have your names of all of your people. Just some notes. Appears to be blank on the back side. So that's a nice touch that they provided, just a stack of those. I'm sure it's always something you can go online and download. So here we are. Yeah, like see this right here. This is nothing but a throwaway piece of cardboard here that did its decent job of holding the cards in there. But I don't know if you guys can see this, but there are these little pieces of this insert that come out, and I'm assuming that this is meant to hold your cards like so, except the problem is that at some point here you're gonna have to stack them up too high like that, and they no longer are holding all the cards are just gonna slide around like this. But then what do you do with these? This is just one big cavernous space. There's all these cards, and I'm about to show you all the ridiculous amount of tokens that are in the game. So there's a lot of these cards. I don't know if we are going to be able to look at all of them, but we'll certainly take a look at some of them rather closely. You can see there's different levels. Like here is a rare weapon, but you can also see here that all of these dice that have all these various symbols on them, like say this 7 and the 6, it has 2 book symbols, a shield symbol. This one's got 2 shields and a book, a star. This is actually supposed to be a 9. So all these additional symbols, if you look here on this card just for an example, If you get 2 shield symbols amongst your roll, you're adding +2 physical damage. If you get a star, it's +1 physical damage. So this right here is 16 damage, but I've got 1, 2, 3 shields, so that's another +2 physical. So now we're talking 18, and each star, I believe it is cumulative, so then you're looking at 2 more. So all of a sudden this is now a 20 if you're using the longsword. So these dice probably do appear to be confusing at first because of all the symbols on them, but I think once you get the hang of it, it is pretty straightforward. And, you know, with just a few symbols and different, you know, the different ranges of the dice, you can accomplish a lot in this game. So again, we will take a closer look. This beginning part of the video is just kind of an overview of what is all in the box. And there it is. Here is the magic text finder thing. This is like the one thing I'm worried about losing the most. Let's see if we can just find a quick example of, we'll use something in the crawl book. That way we certainly don't spoil anything from the adventure book. So you can see here that, okay, Muggy Hollow continued. Again, if you don't want to see what this might say underneath, certainly look away, but I'm just going to kind of show off how cool this is. I mean, and this has been around for years. I mean, this kind of red hidden text stuff has been around since the 80s at least, probably the 70s. But I don't know if you guys can see that without the glare getting in the way, but I can read it quite clearly from here. Only read the following hidden text if instructed to when you grab the loot, blah, 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 and it just goes down here. And I really could not. I can pick out some keywords probably now because I know what those words say, these bolden words, but there's no way I'm reading the smaller words. But again, this is just a really nice touch that they added into the game to help keep secrets secret and you know, keep some surprises in the game. All right, so we have some standees of 2 different sizes and colors. We have a whole bunch of miniature base colors here, and I know that these are, we'll talk about those more later when we look at some of the minion cards in more detail. What I'm trying to do is get to the bottom of this box, this 22-pound behemoth here. So this comes out. This will be the golden question as to whether or not we utilize this box in any way, shape, or form. Okay, then we have some map tiles here, and these are actually really, they seem very simple. You know, they're all uniformly shaped, so there's not going to be these extravagant dungeon setups like in Gloomhaven or Descent. But when we take a closer look at these, here is a good example. Like this pool of water or crystal or whatever it is supposed to be in the middle is spot UV'd. It's hard to tell with the cellophane still on it, but this really pops when it catches the light. It definitely stands out from the rest. So really nice just terrain underneath all of your fancy miniatures here. And then we have a big piece of cardboard. Again, this is just a nice little touch that this was included to protect your map and your cardboard tokens. And we have what appears to be a map of the area. Actually, I'm just going to leave it like this so you guys can take a look, turn your heads if you want to. You can see that there is definitely an edge here and definitely an edge over here. The question is that going to be Act 2 and Act 3? But really nice artwork here, tons of text on it. I don't want to like damage it. It's not coming out of here super well. Okay, you're right. Yes, there is no other side to this. And so, like, right here alone, this city is cut in half. This thing's cut off the side. Um, I feel like there's definitely something else here next to the suspended tomb, or Mermaid's Cove. Black Reaches is cut off. So, if I had to guess, I'd say that there is a 2 and a 3 somewhere out there to this map. I don't know if there's any use to this other than just maybe you frame it and hang it up on your wall. All right. So, oh man. These are all status tokens. That is a disgusting amount of status tokens. And then I'm going to tip this over like this. There's actually some really nice artwork on the sides of the box here. Let's see if we can't show that off here in a minute. Literally just had to tip the whole box over. Whew. All right. So we have status tokens, some in square, some in circle. This is a purple bulb. This is an intervention, tentacle, haste, poison, disease, courage. Basically, it says what each one does on it. These tokens down here, like these terrain tokens, have that same spot UV on them, which is cool. So I'm assuming you add these like into various terrains. Let's see what the backs of all these look like. Okay. So here you have much prettier looking tokens. So I'm sure that these are all barrier tokens here with the spot UV. I don't know if you guys can see that. There you go. You can kind of see it. The light catching the spot UV. But basically, this is the fun side to look at. The other side has all the information that you need to know on it. And even the terrain is double-sided. Let's see what else we got here. All right, lots more terrain. Everything down to single water hexes. I don't know what those are. These appear to be the bottom half of some standees. And here are some of the standees, like Agares here. Probably like a resin miniature you can purchase if I had to guess. But if he's only used once or twice in the game, I am okay with him simply being a standee. He's already painted. And we saw this card. This card it's the very top card here. So we don't have a miniature for this Spirit Blade, but that's okay. That's okay. Some wound tokens. Here is your stamina tokens, some loot tokens, all sorts of stuff here. Okay, on the back side, pretty much all the same stuff for this one. Oops. Gary's here is coming out, popping out. All right. So we've got another guy, looks exactly the same. Spirit Blade versus Zulfikar. Celestial Gigas. It's interesting why these guys have two different names. These appear to be all the main characters you could choose from, so little discs for them, more standee stands, more terrain. Let's take a look at the back here. So other than like the health and lots of individual terrain, the majority of the tokens are all the status effect tokens. So this isn't nearly as bad. This is a lot, but it's a lot of the same thing. And here we have a whole bunch more standees. So Quinn, Breeze, Enslaved Spirits 1 through 6, the Wanderer Roots, one random water token down here. You see that each of their bases are even color-coded, which kind of coincides with these here that can go on the miniatures. So there you have it. I'm assuming that the backside here is very similar. Yep, pretty much the same stuff. Okay, so that is essentially a broad look at what's in the box. So let's zoom in now and we'll take a closer look at some of the cards, some of the map tiles, some of the monsters and the characters, and then we will finish this massive unboxing off with a closer look at a fair number of the miniatures. So here are the cards. We're going to start with the weapons because they appear to be the largest pile of item cards. So all of the cards are fall under one giant heading, and that is item cards. So these are the weapons, and you can see here that they range from tiers of mundane, common, uncommon, and rare, and then there are a handful here that are monster loot specific. So I'm assuming that you don't gain these until you have defeated a specific monster in the game, but you can see that they are pretty intense, and they have the monster loot keyword on the front. So again, you're not going to be able to just buy these from the market, but for the most part, you're going to be able to find a lot of these in the market and purchase them, but also you'll find them in loot. Everything, each class here, mundane, common, uncommon, and rare, each have then a small subset of unique weapons that, for whatever reason, these have a specific story that comes along with them, and there is not there's only one copy of them in the game. So specifically in the rulebook it states all of the above tiers have a unique version of the cards available. Unique items represent an item with a unique history behind its existence. And then you could look further on page 55 of the rulebook to read more about unique loot. But so for the most part, I'm just going to flip through these backsides so as not to completely spoil anything. You'll just kind of get to see some pictures of how the things upgrade. But you will notice that some of these are double-sided here. So for example, this rare weapon here has this flip keyword. So after resolving a spell you cast, so long as that spell didn't have the per encounter or flip condition, cast the same spell again, but then you would flip this rare weapon, and you then are stuck with it on this side. Also, for example, there is, this mundane unique shield here that has this flip keyword: place 3 1x1 dangerous terrain tokens orthogonally adjacent to your figure, blah blah blah, all this stuff, and then you flip it, and then it is, stuck over here. Trying to think where I could find. I know that there are some that have the double keyword, which means you get to choose what side. Okay, here's an example in the mundane stack. So here you can see you have a long sword that is a two-handed weapon, uses certain dice, has certain characteristics, but it has this keyword double up here. That means you can choose to flip the longsword over, use it as a single-handed weapon. It appears that the augmented stuff doesn't change, but when you're using one-handed, you're only rolling one white die, and I'm sure the combos are different. Yeah, so in two-handed just has a passive effect, and single-handed has all these combos. So combos would mean that you have to have another item that you've equipped with this keyword. So if you have a light item, could be a shield or another sword, you can activate these combo effects. Or say you have another long sword. So say you're holding two long swords both on this individual side, you can activate this combo effect. So let's just go through some of these, and we'll just kind of show off the backside so as not to reveal any spoilers here. So these are going to be all the mundane weapons, starting weapons, things like that. And I guess we could probably show off some of these here. Let's pick something like this axe here. So we already talked about some of the stuff on here. This, is the cost if you were to purchase this from a market here. The 2 white dice is how many you're going to roll if you're using the war axe to attack. It's a 2-handed weapon. It is a melee weapon. And then it has this exhaust characteristic here. And then along with that, it has these additional damage modifiers here. So these do not count towards your roll, where you have to beat or exceed the what's the number on the combatant. You have to exceed their statistic with your roll. But then once you have hit and you've successfully hit, then you can augment by spending additional single shields here. So for every shield you spend, and by spending it, you technically remove it from your dice pool, you can add +1 physical damage. So if you were to say roll, I'll put all the dice back in the bag, but say you were to roll this 9 here, there's 2 shields there, that's +2 more physical damage, and then a third one because it has 1 star. So that is how the item cards work essentially. So you can just kind of use your imagination. These mundane ones look very simple, very straightforward. So shields are included in the weapons, and then there were these unique ones here, which you can see we saw one similar to that, but this one is the unique one. This specific bow has a story behind it. Okay, so then these are the common weapons. A little bit better statistics than that. Looks like a Nerf gun for some reason. Then your mundane, but still easily, you can find them easily. You're not going to have any trouble finding them in the market. Look at that. There's multiples of each copy, so more than one of you could have it. Spellcraft blunt. Okay, so this one will have the flip keyword. Yep, flip keyword on this side, which means once you flip it over, it's probably stuck there on that side until the end of the scenario. And here's an example of a double again. So you can use this as a ranged weapon. It's a 2-handed ranged weapon, rolls these dice, or you can choose to flip it over here. It becomes a melee weapon. Again, 2-handed, rolls slightly different dice. I'm guessing, I don't have the, let's look here and see which die is better. The orange is actually better than the teal, so using this as a ranged weapon would be better off, interestingly enough. But you have to spend more to get the additional damage here. So, anyways, that are some of the common items, and here is the common unique items. So again, these come with a specific story. You're not probably just going to be able to purchase them from the market. Okay, so my mundane sword here should have gone back over there. These are uncommon weapons. So getting more fantastic. Ooh, that is an evil doll. You care to pause the screen, check that one out, you're welcome to, but again, I don't want to spoil anything for anybody. There is a lot of content, a lot of items that you can add to your characters. A lot of choices. Here are the unique items in the uncommon pool. That looks like a computer, a tome, console. And then here are the rare items. So Soul Blade of Purity. A lot of these are, double-sided, have flip keywords, I'm assuming. What's this called? Night Stalker's Trophy. There's actually 2 of those. So like we saw something very similar to this in the mundane, but this is obviously a very upgraded version. This is a shovel, Gravedigger's Mistress. shields, bloodied axe. So really great artwork on all of these. That's creepy. Okay, so this is all of the weapons in the game. So let me just kind of stack these up here, keep them somewhat organized, because I'm going to bring in the rest of the cards here. The next set of cards I want to look at are the relics. So I divided these up into 3 tiers. You have your standard relics, which again have mundane, and then we'll start getting into common relics, like a tattoo, body piercings. Then we get into uncommon relics here, a phone, and then eventually rare relics, keys. This is like a creature you can summon. Glasses, I don't even know what that is. Rare arrows. So relics in the instruction manual are listed as provide many various benefits while equipped, and that's it. So then you have a whole set of monster loot relics. So again, these are, you know, if you fight the cave sickles, you'll have an opportunity to get this sickle venom here. So all of these are specific to monsters that you will defeat in the game. And then these last set I set aside because they are, you know, within the common. You can see there's some mundane, there is some rare, common, and then this one unique. But these are, pretty sure all of them have the double keyword on them here. So you can see they can be used as a relic or they can be used as a weapon. So I'm assuming if you use them as a relic, you don't have to equip them in a hand, whereas if you want to use them as a weapon, you have to at least use up a hand slot. So here are some of the kind of double relics that can be used as a relic or as a weapon. So that's the relics. Next, we're going to take a look at cores. Cores are listed as magical devices that augment an adventurer's ability to avoid damage. Cores typically increase an adventurer's defense value. So these are very similar to armor. I'm assuming armor is more for, let's read what armor says. These cards grant armor to adventurers and keep them alive during encounters. So I'm assuming armor is probably more physical, mundane's probably more magical damage. So let's, and again, these are all have the same tiers. So you've got your mundane, you know, sunglasses. I don't know what these things are. Necklaces. So there's a mundane unique core heart box. And then we get into common necklaces. Some other kind of box. What is this thing called? A ghost canister. Common unique core. That's a hastened core. So again, these aren't considered weapons. Penumbra Architect. And then we get into rare things like the Charm of Ash. Or rare entities that can help protect you in battle. Things like that. So that's the cores. And then we have the armor, again, with all the same tier, mundane, common, uncommon, and rare, along with some unique items. So here are, these are probably like starting armor. You can, you know, very quickly we get into common cat suit, jacket. Those are like the same jacket, but one for a fat guy. Here's common unique, magical leather dress, uncommon unique armor. What's this? Hater's plate. And then we have rare armor. and then rare, unique, and then there's this living obligation armor, which, yes, has monster loot on it. So next up, then we have accessories. So accessories are listed as cards that further augment an adventurer's ability to avoid damage, but also have unique properties beyond just that. So the accessories are just that. They're just listed as accessories. There is no tier to them. So not really sure how you come across these, whether you can, they're always available for purchase. Here are a few that do have a tier, but they're all unique. So mundane unique, common unique, uncommon unique, rare unique, and again, a monster loot accessory, tortured immortal accessory. And then last, but probably not least, but maybe not as exciting, are the consumables, which again are ranked from mundane to rare. So you've got your juice box, and there's going to be lots of every copy of these. So these are throwing knives, lots of different copies of throwing knives, smoke canister. What is this? MF Fortitude. It's a drink and alcohol. Okay. That looks like hair grease, cola. These are things that are going to heal you up. It's a random piece of wood. Ubiquitous plank. Okay. Blessings in a bottle. Bamf. It's a token. Phase token. So yeah, all of these things which you will use at some point, you just kind of hold in your inventory until you need to spend them. And then there are a few that are specific to monster loot. So the corpse collector consumable and the animate consumable. All right, so that is all of the standard size cards, and they're all considered item cards and fit within the mundane, common, uncommon, and rare tiers, and then have their various types. So let's now take a look at the smaller mini American size cards. Here we have all the mini Euro, mini American size, the mini size cards. So we have 4 different types of cards we need to talk about here. The first one is item upgrade cards. So that's these 4 right here. And I have organized them into kind of like colored gems, essentially, because each of these, the purple, teal, green, and red, represent weapon upgrades, armor upgrades, core upgrades, and then universal upgrades. And you can see that they are, just generic on the back. But on the front, there is very specific keywords here, and they've repeated. I haven't gone through and organized them yet, but you can see masterwork, otherworldly, imbued, things like that. And each one is going to give you various effects, like this one allows you to exhaust your weapon when making an attack, add +1 to the attack roll, which remember is different than adding physical damage onto the end, because you need to be able to have a successful attack roll before you can even apply damage. All of these here appear to be giving you additional attribute traits, but according to the rule book here, you unlock these upgrades by all monster loot cards have the material tag. Any cards with this tag may be traded in during the shop and train to perform one of 3 benefits. Gain 25 gold, gain and equip any single item, upgrade of your choice to an item for free, and then unlock a single item upgrade of your choice. Once an item upgrade has been unlocked, mark it on your adventurer sheet. This item upgrade may be purchased during the current shop and train phase and any future shop and train phase. And the amount that you spend is dependent on whether it's a mundane, common, uncommon, or rare item. So if you look here on our adventure sheet, you'll notice that here is the unlocked item upgrades. So masterwork, imbued, otherworldly, these are basically the item ones. So what you're actually doing is unlocking the keyword, and then all of those multiple copies of masterwork are available to purchase and upgrade your weapons with. So Other than maybe organizing these so that common names are together and then the different types are together, this is not hidden information. All right, so then next up we have our initiative cards. These are basically cards that I will probably personally sleeve. I don't think I'm going to sleeve everything there is in this game, but these are going to get shuffled a lot. And so essentially there is just an initiative card for every single, it appears to be that heroes and adventurers are in black and the combatants are in red. But basically whoever you're entering into an encounter with, you're going to grab an initiative card for them, and similar to how like Aeon's End works or something like that, you're going to shuffle up the initiative deck between each round, so it varies. There are other ways. I believe in the crawl mode, you simply take whoever was last and move them to the beginning so they get back-to-back turns, or you can leave it static if you'd like. Shuffle it and deal it out once at the beginning, and then each round the order of everyone. But that's how the order of each round is dealt with. All right, so then next up we have this combatant loot card deck. So this is going to be a deck of various things from certain gold, like +5 gold, to monster loot. There's 12 gold, 9, 8. I'm looking for a specific card here that must be at. Okay, here, item loot. Roll 2 white dice, and then based on what you roll number-wise, what your roll equals to, you get to gain that certain type of item. Most of this unique loot, there you go, most of this is gold. So most of the combatant loot is going to be gold that you acquire and then can spend in the shop phase. And this deck is not taken into every encounter. You're actually going to build a specific combatant loot deck based on the level of the encounter. Again, mundane, common, uncommon, and rare. And so I'm just going to show you this here. This is in the rule book, kind of near the beginning, but this is how you would set up based on, you can see, for example, mundane is going to have 4 gold cards, 4 or 5 gold cards, 1 unique, 1 monster, 1 item. So as you get higher, you're going to basically get more opportunities to gain gold, really, is all that changes. More gold, more higher end gold, things like that. So that is the combatant loot deck. And then last but not least here, we have our discipline deck, or upgrade decks. So what you have here are 5 different classes of discipline. And just as an example here, I'm just going to flip one of these over because I'm not going to go through all of these. But Banished Knowledge, this is a level 1 assemblage discipline. You exhaust it, an ally with Sphere of Influence gains haste. Reduce, this is the stamina point cost to do it. You exhaust it, so you only get to use it once. This is basically a spell. And you can see that there are level 1s. There are also level 2s, level 3s. There may even be a handful of level 4s. I'm not sure. But again, I have not organized these either. But what essentially you have here is anytime you want to upgrade your individual with a discipline, you can choose any level 1 discipline you like. You don't have to pick assemblage at the beginning of the campaign and stick with assemblage. If you, however, want to move from a level 1 to a level 2, you have to at least have a level 1 in that same discipline. So in order to train and gain by spending XP a level 2 assemblage, you have to have at least 1 level 1 assemblage in your repertoire here. And you can see here that the 3 is the XP cost, and then the plus is XP cost is plus 1 XP for every other discipline of the same level an adventurer already has. So again, this is a level 1 assemblage. So if you want to purchase any other level 1 martial, for example, I have a level 1 assemblage and I want to purchase a level 1 martial, it's going to be 3 XP plus I already have a level 1, so that's 4 XP to train at a level 1. And to get say at a level 2 assemblage, not only do I have to have the prerequisite of a level 1, but then I also have to spend 5 XP. If this is the first level 2 discipline I've trained on, then it's just 5 XP. And then lastly, if I want to train a level 3 assemblage, I need to have a level 1 and a level 2 in my repertoire. And again, it's going to be 7 XP plus, if say I've gotten up to level 3 in Martial, then it's going to be an additional XP. So let me just read out real quick what these 5 disciplines stand for. Assemblage is the art of whispering to things that walk in the realms outside of our own and dealing with the ancient creatures that were once beyond our imagination. The abilities often reflect a jack-of-all-trades mentality. This is because these abilities are as diverse as the creatures you call upon to perform them. In early levels of assemblage, a player can perform a wide array of actions, from gaining extra actions to granting positive effects. Okay, so I'm going to give you the cliff notes here for the rest of these. Cure is essentially more risky abilities, but can be very powerful. Grants the ability to curse, disease, ruin, liquefy. So these are kind of the nasty spells, and these are the kind of positive support spells. Martial is embodiment of physical combat. They can make your attacks more powerful and turn your combatant into a combat powerhouse. It can give certain weapons the ability to be used in both melee and ranged. And so essentially this is combat spells or combat buffs. Sanctus boasts a wealth of strong and diverse abilities. It can grant magical armor, temporary wings, allow users to avoid obstacles, can deal direct damage, heal, and even fold reality to teleport others. So this is essentially your like movement buffs, your healing buffs, your direct damage, things like that. Again, kind of a pairing with assemblage. This almost would probably be more of the support class here. And then last but not least, subterfuge is the rogue-like and assassin abilities that focus on big damage but also maximize defensive potential. Things like dodge, taking free actions, moving without penalty. So this is all of the discipline cards that you can, again, these on top of the various items that you can add to your character, creates that atmosphere of endless possibilities of character creation, which is one of the reasons why I was drawn to the game, and I think a lot of people are drawn to the game. So this represents all of the cards now we have covered in the game, both the standard size and the mini size cards. The only thing left that we haven't taken a look at are the hidden ones, which obviously do not open until instructed to do so, and we're not going to look at those. So let's move on to the tiles now. So here we have the tiles for the game. They are very simple. They are all this same shape and size, which has its pluses and minuses. It obviously makes storing them much easier and setup a lot easier, but they don't lock together. That can be, again, a plus and a minus, that you don't have to take the time to lock them together, but they also have tendency to maybe separate if they get bumped. Also, the shapes of the dungeons are going to be very mundane, very straightforward, basically just rectangles and boxes and things like that. So, but what they have done, which I really appreciate, is taken these standard square tiles. They've put really nice artwork on them, but also this spot UV, which you can see, for example, the water up here in the corner has this different sheen, and it really pops nicely under the lights. So other than just kind of showing off the artwork, I do want to point out some of the various types of terrain that you'll see here, and as they pop up, then I'll cover them. So right here, for example, this tree or these rocks on these two, this is obstructing terrain. Basically, it blocks line of sight. It also blocks movement, everything else. Then you have water. So water is always going to be blue. Figures in water cannot dodge, and it costs 2 movement to leave a water space. So you can jump into water, but to climb out of water, it takes additional movement. This green space here is hindering. So if you're walking, say, through the bushes or climbing up out of this tree stump here, hindering attacks made through or into hindering terrain get -1 to their attack roll. and also costs 2 movement to leave a hindering space. So I guess you can jump into bushes easily, but to climb out costs more. All right, this dotted line here, the dotted white line, is dangerous terrain. So basically, if you end your movement in dangerous terrain, you are defeated. Basically, these are the pits in the game, never-ending pits. So let's take a look at the backside here and see what else we got. Again, the artwork on here is really amazing, and like, for example, this table right here, or whatever this piece is, really just pops nicely right off the terrain. Also, you can see that the borders of these various terrains here, there's a lot going on here, but everything pops real nicely, almost giving it a three-dimensional look to it. So let's look at, we've discussed everything else here, obstructing, hindering. The orange terrain we have not seen, however, and that is a special terrain. The effects of this terrain change depending on the encounter, and the rules governing these spaces are specified on the special encounter rules for each encounter. So, here you have basically the trees that stick up are creating unobstructive obstacles, but then there's these, I guess, areas of the grove that provide special rules based on your scenario. So let's keep moving on here, and then we'll start going through these quicker once I have seen. There's actually only one other type of terrain that we haven't seen yet, so we're just going to start going through here more quickly, and when I see the final type of terrain pop up, I will point it out. These are all nicely numbered here. So again, like just these crystals right here really just pop off the board nicely. Again, they're very simple tiles, but the artwork on them is top notch, and the spot UVing. Also, there is elevation, essentially. I'm not going to go into all the rules of elevation, but obviously there's movement rules for going up elevation. There's penalties if you fall down from elevation, things like that. Still have not seen the final type of terrain we are missing, but that's okay. It's not a type of terrain you probably want to encounter a lot. Yeah, that's still special. That's orange. Look at this. There's actually, this is all one big giant hindering terrain space. Purple here is just signifying elevation, so all the way into here or all the way back. The purple line helps signify that this elevation marker is the same going all around this pit. Pile of skulls and bodies and eyeballs floating in the water. Again, there's a lot of map tiles here. And so even though they're very simple, very straightforward in size and shape, the terrain that they are producing here is very unique across all the tiles. One giant water space. I'm assuming this one here is not water. Don't know why this isn't like circled in a regular normal color. I'm wondering if maybe the final type of terrain, which is muck, that we have not seen, I wonder if that's only on a specific little tile that you would add, a token that you would add to a spot just to add muck to that individual scenario. Muck is stated as figures in muck must spend an additional stamina point on all actions and abilities that cost 1 or more stamina points to use. So that includes movement, that includes attacking, things like that. It basically slows down everything. But I've yet to see any muck on any of these terrain tiles. It is, so this is special, which has looked orange on others. And it has the star, which is helpful too. Water tends to have a little droplet, and muck is going to have this like star symbol. See, there's this double arrow symbol, which I'm not quite sure what the double arrow symbol means. Ooh, look at that. And last but not least, our final 2 tiles here. Yeah, muck must be just something you add individually based on a tile or token. So that is all the tiles. The only thing remaining for us to take a look at are some of the miniatures and adventure and combatant cards. So finally, we have some miniatures along with some of the character cards here. We're going to start with the 4 main adventurers. So this is Rook, probably one of the more recognizable adventurers, heroes in the game. He's wielding his dual hammers here. And let's just kind of go over his adventure card here so you guys can have a better understanding of what you're looking at as I go through these, just showing off the adventures. So obviously you have their name here and, you know, their title, and then what you have right here is their stamina. Now he can hold a maximum of 5 stamina points. You know, use stamina to basically complete all your actions on your turn. And he refreshes 3 stamina each turn. So that's what the red filled in dots are for. At the beginning of each turn, he's going to get 3 stamina back. Then he's got all of these kind of special abilities underneath him, a passive ability, and then, you know, all these other things to consider. Then he's got these 2 dice icons here. His conviction count is what he uses. He rolls 2 purple dice anytime he does a skill check, and every skill check is going to have be testing either your presence, your lore, your agility, your perception, or your strength. And essentially you roll your 2 purple dice, you add whatever skill you are testing against, add your ability to it. So if it's, say, strength, you would roll 2 purple dice and add 6 to it, and then you check to see if you pass that skill test. Obviously there are things you can, you know, items you can carry, relics, things like that, that can modify your skill check rolls and things like that, but this is the basics of it. And then the casting die, a single purple die, is for spells. Again, you can add certain items that can make casting spells easier, probably adds an additional die, something like that to it. And then last but not least, he has his health. That's pretty straightforward. His defense value, this is not armor, this is the roll value that a combatant needs to reach or exceed in order to actually hit Rook. So he's got a defense value of 9, which is interesting because it's the exact same for all the other 4 adventurers. But basically, if a combatant rolls their attack dice, if they don't even get to 9, they don't even hit Rook. No damage is taken. They just completely miss. And then last but not least is his movement. This, if you take your single move action on a turn, your base movement is 6, and then you can spend, you know, additional stamina points to add 2 to this. And that's pretty much it. There is a nice little backstory on the back of every card. I'm not going to show those off simply because if you're interested in them, you could probably find them online, but I'm assuming if you're really interested in them, you're probably getting the game and you can read them then. So at this point, we're just going to go through all the cards and all of most of the miniatures here, but at least you'll now get to understand what you are looking at. So after Rook, we have Zeke. So here's Zeke's card and Zeke's figure. So you can see he doesn't have quite as many special abilities, not quite as much health. His perception value is a lot higher, less in strength, much higher agility, things like that. So, and obviously you don't see any attack dice on here. That's only because you more than likely are always going to have a weapon that contains the attack dice that you're going to roll when you're attacking a combatant. But if you don't happen to have a weapon, you get to roll 2 purple dice, similar to your conviction. So that was Zeke. Let's take a look at Remy with the wings. So the miniatures are okay, in my opinion. They are not in the same echelon as Cool Mini or Not, or Awakened Realms, or Fantasy Flight. Those would probably be the top 3, probably in that order too. Miniature producers, in my opinion. These are not bad. The detail is okay. They do have resin model kits for like alternate artwork, I guess you could say, for all of the adventurers and some of the main bad guys that you can purchase, obviously, from their website. I think they're about $20 a character, but those, are much higher quality, but you're gonna have to put them together, glue them together, be a lot more careful with them. All right, so this is all the adventures. Now we'll take a look at some of the combatants. All right, here we have some of our intelligent combatants. So this is a cave sickle. The miniature is okay. These, I think you're going to see these a lot. These are like kind of the basic minion here. But a few things that are different about this card versus the other are, first of all, you'll see that here is 1, 2, 3, and there's specific colors that match up with a base you can put on the miniature here. But you can see that 1, 2, 3 have their own card, and then should be exactly the same, but 4, 5, and 6 have their own card. So when you introduce a cave sickle into the encounter or the scenario, you're probably going to put all 6 in, but the first half are going to get a different initiative card than the second half. So all 6 of them aren't going to activate at the same time unless their initiative cards are dealt back to back. So that's, you can see here are 3 different colors. Then we have the name, passive abilities right here, and then starting where these diamond symbols are the, what was this called? The AI steps. So what you are going to do here is start at the top, and you'll read this bold question here. And if that question is true, so is there an opponent adjacent? Yes. Then you will do this action and you will stop. You'll see here on the next one that there is a line on the bottom of some of those actions where it says continue down. So you'll actually keep going down the list. But if you don't see the words continue down, you basically do the top action in which the question answer is true, and then you stop. The cave sickles also have, they can spend shields, which they will do just like the, the characters spend shields and stuff on their dice. They also have conviction dice. So if they need to do a conviction test, those are the dice they'll roll. The cave sickles don't have a casting die, which means they cannot cast spells. And then stuff that we saw in the other one, health, defense. So if you're rolling an attack against a cave sickle, you need to get 8 or higher in order to hit it. It can move 6 at a time, and then all combatants have an armor value. So this one is 0, which means every time you hit, all the hits will go through, and then combat dice. So that's how you read a intelligent combatant card. So let's kind of go through some more of these here. Next up we have the Water Lola. And again, not every, you can see here that I feel like the Water Lola, they just could have done better with the miniature. I'm just not that impressed with this miniature compared to the artwork. I think the artwork is fantastic, and the miniature just kind of came up a little short for me. Some of these miniatures are much better, but for example, this Water Lola here just seems like they mailed it in. But just a few different things here, or actually just one different thing, is that the fact that if you were to do this first AI step, is there a figure within sphere of influence with an effect? If the answer is true, you would do this, but then you would continue down. So you would have the possibility of answering, is there more than one opponent adjacent? If that is yes, then you would do this. If not, then you would keep moving down. Basically, continue down means start this whole process of reading the questions, and if the answer is true, then do the action. So next up we have the animate here. See, this is just, in my opinion, a much better miniature. Again, they're not that, the quality of the miniatures is okay. But this one's much better than the Water Lola we just saw. And the only other thing I want to point out here is that you can see this gentleman has armor value, which makes sense. If you're looking at his picture, he's covered in armor. So basically, you have to roll a 9 or higher to hit this gentleman. Everything that is excess of 9 is damage, plus if you're adding books and shields and things like that, you can add physical damage. Once you have your physical damage total that is going to be going towards the animate, then he reduces that value by 3 every time with his armor. So that pretty much covers everything. Obviously, that's just the basics, but everything you might need to know for combatant cards. So we're just going to kind of go through a remainder of some of the miniatures we have here just to kind of show them off. Again, this one is okay. The miniature is okay. I feel like it has some better detail than the Water Lola, but again, it's still not quite there. They could definitely use some improvement in that area. This is probably one of the better ones, detail-wise. After like the adventures, I feel like they did a pretty good job with the adventures, and that does make sense. Those adventures are going to be on the board the whole time. The artwork is fantastic. Like that gatekeeper artwork on the card is amazing, and I almost feel like I would just rather have a standee that's already colored and painted or whatever of the gatekeeper than have a substandard miniature. That's personally just my opinion. I'm sure that there are plenty of people out there who can paint a lot better than me and get their gatekeeper looking amazing. I'm just not quite that talented. This is another just miniature I personally am just not very impressed with. I'm going to try and turn it so you can even kind of see that it's basically just a wolf's head with then this curving tail piece that comes to an end. I'm going to turn it a little bit here so you can see other sides of it. At first, I wasn't even sure what this miniature represented until I had gone through all of the cards and couldn't find one, and then I went back through and I was like, is this the Gavaudon? The artwork here makes me think of this like full-size wolf with this ridiculous foxtail that just kind of sweeps around everywhere with a sword on the end of it. This right here is not what the images on the card do not evoke this image here. So this is another miniature that I'm just kind of like, really? That's what they came up with?
And I honestly, I'm pretty sure I'm right here. If I'm wrong, please let me know. But I can't find any other cards that would be something else for that miniature. But I feel like, you know, they just kind of mailed it in with that one. Tortured Immortal is okay. Is another one that they did okay with. And then last but not least is the Merhound. So that's going to do it, ladies and gentlemen, for this unboxing of Middara. Again, we didn't cover everything. We didn't look at every card. There are still a few miniatures left in the box, some companion miniatures and things like that. But we covered most everything there was. Next up will be a storage solution video. I know there are a couple out there, but if you are familiar with the channel, you will know that I take it as a personal challenge to always get my games organized before I even start to play them. So I'm going to try and start painting up some of the miniatures. Maybe we'll have some painting videos for those, and the storage solution. So keep an eye out for those videos coming next on the channel. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. And if you want to be notified the next time some Middara content drops onto the Meeple Marathon, please consider subscribing to the channel. Once again, thanks for watching. Have a great day.